Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pinch of Salt, where we'll be breaking down all 10 NACL teams in the 10 days leading up to the NACL regular season beginning. Episode 7 coming your way. We've been doing this for a week now, so nice and weathered. You know the formula, you know how this works, and you know that we're about to talk about our community-ranked number 4 team in the NACL. And that, of course, is Supernova, who I think take the biggest jump from last year's finish to their projected standing here coming into 2024, Hawk, because going from 10th place, they were actually demoted out of the league in the promotion tournament, but with the departure of Evil Geniuses challengers from the space, they needed another squad to take their spot. And Supernova want to make sure they don't get relegated again, Hawk. What do they do here with this roster?
Yeah, you know, Grapes, they took a big jump as far as projected standings. They also took a big jump as far as budget is concerned, I'm willing to say as well, because they got NRG with them now. ThinkCard did say that their NRG wants to try to provide like active support instead of just slapping their name on the team. But he was saying that they do want to work directly with the players, which I think is really cool. And they've got a great roster. I'm just going to jump straight into the highlights, Grapes, because we're going to go top to bottom. Faisal, Kenvi, Shochi, Array, Diamond. The highlights, we both put it in our own words. The whole roster is basically a highlight as far as we're concerned. Like, there are no obvious weaknesses on this team, and there's a lot of people that can carry from any position. I mean, I should say 3 out of these 5 players were touted very, very highly in Challengers League last year. Array, of course, took the split off, was sub for Golden Guardians LCS, so wasn't playing in NACL, but Faisal, Shochi, huge performances for their respective teams last year. And then Kenvi and Diamond coming back from LCS. I mean, look, it may have been rough splits for both of them, but we know what these players are both capable of at this level. Kenvi in particular, right? An MVP split not too long ago.
Yeah, first of all, sorry, Sketch. I forgot to change your picture. That's Rock Boom still in there. That's okay. To be fair, Sketch, if you are watching this, because I know that I think he does follow this our platform a little bit. It was like very hard to find a picture of you, and that I think eventually I just kind of forgot about it. So that's my bad.
For what it's worth, this is a year ago now, but I don't think it's changed. Is when I made my like CLG Faith like Cars GIF. I had to take like a random selfie that Sketch put on his Twitter because I couldn't find any pictures of him. So yeah, I feel you. It's Sketch's fault, not ours, for not updating the graphic.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, overall, I mean, I totally agree with you, Hawk. And as you said, our highlights, I think this team has 0 question marks, all very known quantities and all very good known quantities at this point. Some have been around longer than others. You might remember Array actually playing on Supernova back in 2021 spring, which was a team that didn't make it too far, but he specifically impressed enough down in the bottom lane to eventually make his way to Barrage and then, of course, continue his trajectory up through 100 Thieves next and then into the Tier 2 space. At that same time, Kenvi was dominating on 100 Thieves, I believe, Academy. And of course, Diamond was making his way throughout the Tier 2 space as well. So all these players kind of have gone up and down, taking their journeys throughout the space, and all have kind of earned their stripes at this point. As people who we very much respect here in this Tier 2 space and think of very highly and who we think are going to perform very, very well.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like you said, everyone on this roster, we should know what to expect. I mean, Grapes, without immediately looking at my notes, I believe I had everyone here as top 4 in their respective role, which, I mean, is obviously very, very strong. Like, this team just should be great from top to bottom. And I want to address as well, you put your area of concern as too many cooks. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because I actually feel like I might have differing opinion on that. So I want to hear what you have to say first, because I guess we are talking about like, oh, you know, they can carry from every role. I personally don't see that as a bad thing, but I'm curious to see why you're concerned by that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you worded it right. This team can carry through every role. You know, Kenvi, if you're not remembering Kenvi in Academy, in, you know, whatever this kind of Tier 2 space has been called over the years, and you're only remembering him from his time in Immortals, should try to watch at least a couple of VODs and remember just how dominant this player was when he was a part of 100 Thieves. And it is a bit of a shame that he never got his opportunity to promote like someone like Tenacity did internally. But, you know, Kenvi decided to take the early jump to Immortals. Obviously, that didn't work out very well, and he's going to be able to do pretty well here. But taking a look at who he has to gank, obviously, all of these players are very good strong side options. Faisal, we saw with Fear and even FlyQuest, despite them having somebody who is now an LCS 80 carry, did get a decent amount of resources and was able to play these carry champions very well. Shochi, you could say the same thing about him and Fear, how him and Perry really facilitated that entire map, and Array, of course, who I think both of us have hold in very high regards. There are a lot of those mouths to feed, including Kenvi, who is known for champions like the Graves and Kindred and things that can really utilize a lot of resources. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite them in any way, and we don't see one of these side lanes playing too aggressive and then kind of losing the game for them. I don't necessarily see that as as something that's likely to happen, but that is something that you always have to think about when you have an almost overloaded roster, overloaded group of 5.
I see what you're saying. It's just interesting because I agree. There are a lot of mouths to feed on this team, but especially I feel like this team to me looks like something that's going to function very, very well, assuming the players themselves mesh as teammates, because you talk about the carry potential of Kenvi and Array already. And even though Faisal and Shochi are carry players as well, these are two players that over the years I have definitely associated with being able to kind of do anything. I mean, we had still have a whole Swiss Army knife narrative around Shochi and the fact that this guy will play fucking anything in the mid lane, which, by the way, in Season 14, I know meta's temporary, but mid priority is really important right now, and I feel like Shochi's champion pool, his weird stuff, is going to be really big, actually, for the team early on in Season 14. Trying to link up with Kenvi, playing weird stuff potentially to get first move. So that's interesting. And I think Shochi is very good at actually not being the focal point when the team does not demand it. And Faisal, I have seen this man be brilliant on tanks. I feel like back in 21, I want to say, and for part of 22, when Faisal was still playing in Tier 3, I actually associated him more as a weak side player. I feel like I remember being surprised in spring on Fear when Faisal was busting out stuff like Camille and 1v9ing some of these games, which it's great. I mean, Faisal is a player that I now think of as someone that can do anything. But I know this player has that weak side background as well. So that's why I almost wonder, I feel like there's just the right amount of cooks in this kitchen because everybody can be a sous chef or the executive chef when need be,
Yeah, no, I definitely hope that is the case, and from those past experiences definitely is a possibility, but it's just something that I'm gonna have to look at. Also, it's hard to pick a specific weakness. Back in other episodes when we would target a certain newer player or younger player or somebody coming back into the league for the first time, that's an obvious area of concern. As we're getting towards these higher marks, maybe that becomes a little bit harder to do, but it's still something that I'm going to have my eyes on and making sure that this team is able to kind of play well together, because I do hope that everyone gets their opportunity in the spotlight, and it doesn't kind of just become like the Kenvi power farms for 30 minutes and then Array gets pretty fed and wins a couple of fights, and that's how these teams win games, because I know that these players have much higher potential than that and do have the opportunity to do a lot of really good things.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree. And just to, maybe you're reading my concern and you're like, what the hell does that even mean? The only reason I put that there is I touched on it briefly. Kenvi, Diamond, players that have been around a while, went up to LCS, now coming back. Really, the only area of concern I guess I have is hey, show that you still got it, right? LCS runs were tough. Hey, LCS is hard. Level of play is higher, and the teams were not very good around them, right? Coming back to NACL just proved that you still haven't skipped a beat, that you still have the ability to run the Rift like they did back in the day. And honestly, I don't even know if it's so much a concern or more just a narrative question mark. I have no doubt that they should be able to do so. But it is just something to look out for. Especially I think of Kenvi. You do not want to come back to Tier 2 and struggle in the same way that you did in Tier 1, right? You want to prove that you're still able to dominate, still be picked up by an LCS team, and in a better environment potentially succeed.
It's crazy to call Kenvi a boomer, but you look at the timeline. This is year 5 of him participating in competitive play. So, if you earn your veteran status in some way, maybe that's it. I think aside from Diamond
He's
is the
earned his
most
stripes.
experienced player, yeah, in terms of just pure years on this Supernova lineup. And I think I agree with you in a lot of those things that you're mentioning about him, Hawk, because everyone's kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt right now because they remember what he was like in Tier 2. They remember how he played in Academy and how he dominated that space for at least a couple of years. You know, everyone's using the excuse right now for him. He was on Immortals. And to be fair, that's something that a lot of players have been able to use, and it's worked out well for them. But I think for Kenvi especially, like the start of this split and just making sure you come off on the right foot. And I think Supernova is going to be one of those teams that is out firing first, especially because some of the teams that we have later on, specifically some of our LCS affiliates, are going to be introducing new players to the league and have more rookies / people new to this environment. Where these guys, they've all been here before and they know how things work around here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Grapes, I mean, clearly, I feel like we're both pretty high on Supernova. We're liking what this team has, players that we have come to know and love throughout the NACL from top to bottom. Do we feel that 4th is just right, or should they be higher or lower?
I'm going to go a little higher. I think that there are teams above them with maybe some higher ceilings depending on how some of their unknowns pan out. But I think Supernova is going to be playing very, very well, kind of at a base level in a way, and have the opportunity to jump some teams, especially because this season is single round robin best of 3. If you have a couple of bad weeks to start the year off, you're already kind of in a tough position, and that's a lower playoff seeding for you potentially. I feel like Supernova, they're going to be ready to go, similar to what I said about Mirage Alliance, and they're gonna come out swinging. And so I have them a little bit higher than this 4th.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just going to echo your thoughts exactly. I think I would have them higher than 4th as well. I think this team is a serious contender, and I agree with you. Depending on how some things shake out for some teams that we have not seen yet with some of their unknowns, I think that Supernova might struggle because it feels like those teams have a really high ceiling. But I think this team's floor is so high. These are 5 players that I think I have immense respect for in the space. Like I said, top 4 in every single role individually. When you put that together, I think this team is definitely a recipe for success. Top 3 for me easily.
All right, I'm excited to watch this team play. Hopefully, Supernova able to succeed in this Tier 2 space because it hasn't been great for them so far in the NACL. And of course, with the caliber of talent that they have on this roster, definitely in a good position to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't think they're going to finish higher than 4th place, like the community, most of you had them around 4th. Even some people had them lower. 4.32 was the average ranking. Let us know on social media at Salty Runback. Otherwise, take it with a pinch of salt. We are 4 days now from the start of the NACL split. Catch all the action on January 20th, Saturday evening, and make sure not to miss out on another great year of Tier 2. I've been Hawk. That's been Grapes. See you tomorrow.